Hi, I wanted to go over one of the problems somebody was asking about, which is the problem on the test, the sample test that's looking at roots of a polynomial using synthetic division. So I just pulled from WebAssign. They'll change the numbers. 4x to the fifth minus 7x to the fourth minus 5x cubed plus 6x squared. So the first step is to factor out an x squared because an x squared is in every term. So this is what I get when I factor out that x squared. And how did I do that? I really am going backwards by multiplying forwards in my head. So x squared times this first term is 4x to the fifth. X squared times x squared gives me an x to the fourth. X squared times minus 5x gives me minus 5x cubed, and plus 6x squared is the final term. So I'm using the distributive law, but backwards because I'm factoring it out instead of multiplying. But I can check my work to make sure I'm right, and that's really what I'm doing when I factor. The next step is to take that remaining portion and use your calculator to at least find one of the roots. You're not really supposed to do that. You're supposed to apply a method, but this is the fastest method to at least get one of them. So I put this on Desmos. You'll put this on your graphing calculator, and you see that there's a root right here I can easily pull, x equals 2, y equals 0. So the next step is to use synthetic division. You want to take the root from that graph, which is 2, and put it up in the jury box. And then you'll take the coefficients of that remaining portion, the 4x cubed minus 7x squared minus 5x plus 6, and line them up. And now we're going to run the synthetic division algorithm. The first step is to move that 4 down, straight down, and then you're going to multiply the 4 and the 2 to get 8. Then you're going to add that 8 and the negative 7, you get 1. We apply this method again. 1 times 2 is 2, so the 2 goes up there. Add the 2 to the negative 5, I get minus 3. Then do it again. Minus 3 times 2 is negative 6. It totals up to 0. If you did this right, you should get a 0 as your last thing. So somebody asked me in class, what happens if I don't get a 0? Then the previous step, what you put in the jury box was wrong, or one of your multiplications and addition was incorrect. Now you're going to write down the factored polynomial. The original polynomial is x squared times that mess. One of the factors is x minus 2. That's because 2 was in the jury box. So it's x minus whatever's in the jury box. If that was a negative 2, you would have x minus a negative 2 there. So we have x minus 2 because there was a 2 there. Then the remaining portion I got by writing down the coefficients of the factored polynomial. I started out with something that was x cubed, 4x cubed minus 7x squared minus 5x plus 6. Now the factored version would have a x squared. So the 4 would be attached to the x squared. The 1, which is right here, would be the coefficient of the x. And then we get a negative 3. And I see I have a minus sign error there. So let me put in here. Should be a positive x. So right here we should get a plus x. Right there. All right, so working with that, work with me with the wrong sign. The steps are the same. I now will factor that remaining piece using FOIL. So I look at the first two, which have to multiply out to be 4x squared, and the last two have to multiply out to be 3. Then I take my outer and my inner, and see what combination of pluses and minuses should be attached to each one of those in order to get the center term, which is a minus x. It really should be a plus x, so these aren't quite right, but let's work with this because it still works out. I can still factor it. So because I'm supposed to get a minus x here, that tells me I should get a minus 4x and a plus 3x. The minus 4x came from the outer, so the sign on the outer was a minus 1, and the inner is a plus. So this is what I have now. I have the whole thing factored. Now I can set that thing equal to 0 and solve. So I have, if I set that entire polynomial equal to 0, I'll have x squared is equal to 0, x minus 2 is equal to 0, 4x plus 3 is equal to 0, and x minus 1 is equal to 0 by setting each one of the terms in the product equal to 0. And that gives me, solving each one of these little small equations, all the roots. So that's how you do this problem. Now realize I made a minus sign error in my work. That can happen. Sometimes what should have happened when I make a minus sign error is I shouldn't be able to factor it. It was just a fluke I was able to factor it. So if it comes that you made a minus sign error, what's going to happen is that this portion will most likely not be able to, you will not be able to do backwards FOIL on it. And you'll be able to catch it. So beware, there's ways to spot check if you did make an error. Didn't work out for me this time, but that's how you usually do it. That's how it usually works.